Hello everyone and welcome back to our coverage of the Race Predominant Grand Prix Championship Season 6 from Adelaide. I was just on their formation lap at the moment, but before we get underway, let's have a quick look at the championship standings. On top is Ferdinand Lechner with his 2 wins so far at both the Hockenheim Ring and Guyana. He sits on 212 points, 22 ahead of LG Racing's Matt Legale. Third is Lechner's teammate David Yunt on 175, ahead of the 2 Races and Pyjamas teammates Dan O'Neill and Dan O'Long on 160 and 145. Thiago Marcat, 6th on 130, ahead of Theo Dahlberg and Bart Zwiring, who both sit level on 105. 9th position is to Ryan Seltzer, is also from the Mighty Fourth with 91 points, ahead of Turn 3 Motorsports Jeremy Mook with 85. He's also level with Manas Papanglu, the first of the Hellenic racing cars, both on 85 points. Craig Basson sits in 12th position on 80 points, ahead of Rodrigo Cascais on 75. Kinker Racing's Oliver Louis sits in 14th on 67 points, and just 4 points behind that is Mark Breslin on 63 points. And as they round the final sector now, let's have a quick rundown of the grid order.
So the grid then for round 3 of the 6th season of the Race Predominant Grand Prix Championship. Ferdinand Lechner again qualified on pole position, 1.2 seconds ahead of Matt Legale, the only other man in the 24s. Alongside them, so down on Mode 2 will be Dan Long and David Yunt, so the first of the Racing cars ahead of Ferdinand Lechner's teammate, with Tom Watson, Craig Patterson on the 3rd row, Ryan Seltzer, Antonio Navarro, Johnny Sathoros and Mark Breslin ran out the top 10, with Zorna, Alba, Louis Marquardt, Padsy, Pierre, Lamberts, Mook, Cook, Harper rounding out the top 20, with Steve Legale and Theo Dahlberg rounding out the 22 strong grid. All 11 rows getting into position, with Theo Dahlberg just getting into his grid box. Now, who can get the best start? Who can get the cleanest start? It's going to be tight going into the first turn.
Yes, readying now with the last few drivers forming up on the grid. The lights come on now, and they're away. And it's a good start for Lechner this time. Legale has to move across in order to defend his position, but Lechner a clean run into turn 1 as they bounce across the curbs for the first time. And behind him is fairly clean, as I can see. Yes, all drivers looking like they are getting through, but it is Legale into 2nd position, but a huge lead for Lechner already. Racing Pyjamas hold a 3rd, 4th and 5th formation with Dan Long, Craig Patterson and Tom Watts. David Yunt has dropped all the way back to 6th position from his starting position of 4th, so not a good start for the Mighty Fourth driver of David Yunt as they round lap number 1.
So, well, the one thing I criticised Ferdinand Lechner for last time, his start was much improved on this occasion. So as they round it out and onto the final, the big long back straight, as it's informally known, for the first time out of 68, Ferdinand Lechner with about 2 seconds already on Matt Legale. They went almost 5 wide going into turn number 1 at the start of the race. Very, very crazy stuff. However, they did all make it through cleanly. A couple of moves being made further down the order, and as David Jones in particular had made an appalling start, really struggled to make their way through.
Sorry to interrupt you. Sorry, there's contact. Christian Zorna tried making a move on Mark Breslin, had made it stick, but didn't account for Mark still being there. Mark now round in a circle. I'm trying to catch him up. He's now in 19th position, just ahead of Steve Legale. But not a good start for Breslin after that contact going into the stadium section.
Not a great start at all. That was a real problem for him, and that's going to be a lot of time that he needs to make up as they now round through the 2nd lap out of 68 then.
Yes, and those top 2 already breaking ahead quite a lot. 2.5 seconds for Ferdinand Lechner. Not even completed 2 laps of this race yet. Legale still sitting in 2nd, with Dan Long, Craig Patterson and Tom Watts still in a Race of Pyjamas formation for 3rd position.
Meanwhile, as they make their way through then, it is a 2.5 second gap between Ferdinand Lechner and Matt Legale. What a great start. All we can be speaking about for the duration of this race. But as they make their way now towards the 3rd sector in the 2nd lap, I'm trying to see who's having to attack where, because it is still quite early on in this race. Well, Ryan Seltzer in 7th place at the moment. He's trying to defend from Sathoros coming through the hairpin for the second time. Meanwhile, a little bit further down the order, Jeremy Mook up into 14th. Not a bad start for him. There's Thomas Pudsey behind him. And what's happened, Peter?
Mark Breslin around again at the hairpin. More contact made.
And he's stuck on the curb.
On the curb on the inside, yes.
Goodness.
So that is probably going to be the end of his race, I'm afraid. For the mighty fourth driver. 10th position, wasn't it? 10th and 11th position, so pretty high up, but at the moment, not able to do so well for the mighty fourth. Having said that, Vernon Lechner with a 3.5 second advantage over Matt Legale onto lap number 3, with Dan Long, Craig Patterson and Tom Watts still running in that 3rd, 4th, 5th formation. David Young keeping up with them, and then it is Ryan Seltzer and Johnny Saforos with a great start there, up the position into 8th position.
And having a quick review of the Mark Breslin incident, tried to go at the inside of Cook in the number 7 car, coming into the hairpin, braked really quite late, almost checked up into the back of Tobias Marquardt, locks up, gets hit by Cook, then puts him into the barrier and then gets stuck on the curb. Not much more he could do, and he is of course out of this race, so we have lost one of our runners already. And currently the Racing in Pyjamas boys seem to be enjoying a nice little squabble between themselves for 4th and 5th. Craig Patterson in 4th place at the moment, Dan Watts ahead of him, or Dan Watts behind him, who now wants to be ahead of him, getting quite close into the final corner on lap 2, just coming on to lap 3. And this is going to be an interesting battle because the Racing in Pyjamas cars, 3rd, 4th and 5th, although as they start to squabble between themselves, David Yunt will start coming into the battle a little bit more.
Yes, and that will only help Yunt's time championship battle as well, but further up the field we have that 3rd, 4th, 5th battle, and as you say, those two drivers for Racing Pyjamas getting very close to each other. If I was their team manager, I'd be advising otherwise, but
and Clay Patterson's gone round, he's made a mistake on the curb.
And that is what we were saying with these curbs, the highest curbs of the season, and they've claimed their first victim. In fact, they claimed the second victim because Mark Breslin, I don't believe he's got back going again.
No, he hasn't. As I said a moment ago, he is now out of this race, which is a shame for him. And I think Patterson just put too much power on, he clobbers the inside curb, which really unsettles the car, but still threads power slightly too much. And that was just enough to unsettle the car, going to a hard spin. Does recover back up into 7th place, so all in all, not lost a large amount of time. It could be a bit of damage to the tyres in terms of giving them a flat spot. He's behind Seltzer at the moment, and Tom Watts with a little bit of breathing space now ahead of David Yunt, who's now promoted into 5th place, so just collecting points by sitting there and pounding around. A few big rockets for the pair of them, but as they head on to lap 4 now.
Yes, and now an even larger lead for Fernand Lechner, I believe. It is now nearly 5 seconds for the mighty fourth driver, 2nd position for Legale as they go around the tight right, left, right section. 3rd Dan Long, 4th Tom Watts after the demise of his teammate. 5th David Young, Ryan Seltzer sitting in 6th position, and Craig Patterson now back on the charge, just a few tenths behind Seltzer, so probably trying to make up for his lost time, and he can see his teammate in front of him, so it's not too much time. But even further back, we've got a good battle between Jerry Mook, Thomas Parsi and Oliver Louis. And Parsi goes a little bit wide, and that's going to give Louis the chance going towards the left-right fast section here around the market. And at the moment, not able to make the move. Louis sticking in that 13th position.
But Jeremy Mook with a great opening to his race, up to 14th place. Someone's gone off in the background actually, and straight into the barrier. I don't know who that was. I believe that was Tom Lombard.
Tom Lombard.
Yeah. Interesting, he just went, I'll have to review this because that certainly was interesting, but it just appeared as he got caught on the curb and went straight into the barrier.
Yeah, a very easy mistake to do, as we've seen from Craig Patterson, and his curbs claiming drivers even in this early portion of the race. Just having a look further down the field, seeing if we can see any of the battles, and it is Jeremy Mook who's made up 7 positions at the moment in this race, as has Terrell Darnberg running in 15th position. So a great start for both of those, going up 7 positions each, and probably the largest of the field so far. But Thomas Parsi under pressure once again from Oliver Louis as they head through the opening section of the lap and down towards the tight right, left, right section once more.
And what you might not have seen a few moments ago is Pudsy's just struggled coming out to the final corner, had to go quite deep into it, couldn't get the power run, getting a big load of understeer, locks up, that might open the door again for Louis. We saw this on the previous lap, not close enough, not on the right side of the circuit, because that plays so much here at Adelaide, where you've only got one ideal line. There's not that you can't really move left and right, getting this little stock over the curb, a bit of wheel spin generated from there, but Louis is just going to sit in the toe and wait to see what happens. He can afford to just sit and see. If you're going to push too hard, especially in these early laps, you're going to make a good couple of mistakes. That's something you don't really want to do. So, as the battle for 12 rages on so far, Jeremy Mook just pulling away now and behind his teammate Carlos Albert, a good few seconds behind. Admittedly, as Zorn has now retired from this race, and now in 21st position for the Mighty 4th team. I'll have to go back and look at that, because I can recall he was on circuit until a few moments ago, so he has retired, but let's have a look.
While Danny's having a look, just a quick comment on Jerry Mimouk. I believe he's made twice now, he's made brilliant starts. I remember at Hockenheim he had a pre-race penalty that meant he started right at the back and then fought his way back up to the top half of the field, and the same at Guyana. So really a recovery drive in both those two first races, and in this one similar situation, now knocking on the door of the top 10. But we thought he was getting away from that battle behind of Thomas Parsi and Oliver Louis. That's certainly not the case. Parsi with an opening first sector very well indeed, and currently only a few attempts behind as they go into the slipstream section of the circuit. But of course the driver who's going to benefit the most is Oliver Louis as they head towards the tight right-hander near the works, and through the right-hander they go, and Oliver Louis actually makes a mistake, and that's gone 1 second behind now. So a very large mistake going into the back straight for Louis, and any chance of making a move there is completely gone. And now Jean-Pierre Père just behind him, his teammate, is under increasing pressure from Terrell Dahlberg as well. So Dahlberg on a charge now as well after starting from the back of the grid, having some computer issues I believe, but Jeremy Mook under increasing pressure from Thomas Parsi right on the rear wheels of the turn 3 motorsport car as they go through the final corner. Just a few attempts between them, and if you can stay that distance behind over the course of the next lap, you're going to have a great chance down to the hairpin.
But it's then that level of the mechanical grip is going to be there. The aerodynamic grip's not if you sit in the toe for too long. Even in these sort of slower corners, it does affect the car quite significantly. Jeremy Mook with a fairly large lockup, maybe just feeling the pressure, trying to push the car into the corner a little more than he'd prefer, with Thomas Parsi. We keep saying it, but he is just sitting and watching. You don't need to really attack it in an instance like this when you know you're so close. You can just play a bit of mind games. I know the other drivers, Thomas struggles a little bit through there, just had a load of understeer going through there, which is exactly the issue with sitting in the toe. If you're sitting it for too long, you're going to start losing front aero. You're going to start increasing the temperature of the brake as Jeremy Mook goes very wide onto the back straight, which is a shame. Round goes one of the yellow cars behind him. That is Oliver Louis, who's gone wide and spun on the exit of the onto the back straight, and he just clipped the curb and spun him about 360 degrees through, which was in such a good position, but now he's going to have more time to make up after that. And yes, all that happens is he just catches the curb and spins all the way out, which is a real shame for him. However, he does have a decent distance in this race left to go, coming on lap 9 out of 68, so it's not a sprint race in the slightest. It's a decently long race to really get involved in these wonderful Formula 3 cars here for the 6th season, round 3 of the Race Department Grand Prix Championship, with Ferdinand Lechner, of course, still in the lead of this race. Nearly 10 seconds, it's 9.030 between Ferdinand Lechner and Matt Legale in the LG racing car. He's in second place at the moment, ahead of Dan Long, the first of the racing in pyjamas cars, with Tom Watts, the second of the racing in pyjamas cars, sitting fourth. David Yunt, the second man to Ferdinand Lechner in the mighty fourth, going very well at the moment. A bit of a poor start for him at the start of the race, and he's currently in fifth position, just starting to catch up to Tom Watts, as we have a battle elsewhere. A decent battle for 12th place between Jean-Pierre Père and Taro Dolberg. Dolberg, who's had a few issues in qualifying, goes very late onto driver's right, coming into the hairpin, has to stop the car really slowly. You just ache to get back onto the power, but Jean-Pierre Père has the apex at the double left-hander coming onto the permanent part of the Adelaide Street Circuit. They still go side by side, just trying to have a look at the inside into the final corner. He got a late, very late braking there, couldn't quite get it done. That requires a lot of confidence to make a move up the inside there. So the battle for 12, fantastic at the moment between Père and Dolberg through the centre chicane, turns 1, 2 and 3, slightly bouncing over the curb, not putting too much in terms of weight on it, but as they make their way onto the end of the first sector and the slower parts where you swing through the apartment blocks and the rest of the Adelaide streets, you really just got to keep it very calm. You can't overdrive the car here. You put too much onto the curb, you're going to go wide. If you put a little bit too much throttle on, or even touch the wall as Taro Dolberg did there, you can make just a little mistake and it can have the gravest of consequences.
Yes, and we've just seen that for Jeremy Mook as well. Was running in 11th position, got overtaken by Thomas Parsi on the previous lap, then had an attempt to go back up the inside at the final corner. Parsi, though, with the better run out of that final corner, was able to get back through over into turn number 1, but we're going to go back to that in a minute because Jean-Pierre Père is under pressure once again from Taro Dolberg, and this time does Dolberg get through? No, he doesn't. Pierre Père manages to hold it round the outside, and for the moment King is racing number 25 is going to stay ahead of Taro Dolberg for the moment, but Jeremy Mook then made a mistake on the previous lap at that right-hander going onto the back straight. We've seen it quite a few times. It's very tight in one line through there, and just got on the exit curb and that was it. Now down into 14th, but behind that Matt Cook and Oliver Louis, the recovering Oliver Louis, now in a battle for 15th position, still raging on in these lower half of the field. But Louis looking for the move now. He goes round the outside at turn number 3. That's a very uncharacteristic move to make, but he's going to be on the inside for turn number 4 as he go into right-hander, and he does get through. So brilliant move by Louis to get back up to 15th position.
You can see just how much
Cook is under pressure from Tobias Marquardt.
Okay, so we have trying to see who else has come out of the pit lane there, but that must be the first of the stops. So can that be Delta? Okay, well that's an interesting one. Would that be actual strategy? You had his front wing, so that must be an interesting strategy for him to stop this early on in the race. We are 11 laps in, but even then I think that's quite early as Dolberg goes very late on the brakes, side by side, touches Jean-Pierre Père, who almost gets beached on the curb coming out of the back hairpin. The number 28 does manage to recover it, but Taro Dolberg, a very aggressive move to make it up into 11th place, just enough I felt in terms of aggression, and is in 11th place at the moment.
Oh, and Jeremy Mook now will be inside.
And Jeremy Mook definitely wanted to take an opportunity, pulls to the left hand side, just enough room to keep the cars side by side, not an inch more as they head in towards the F and centre chicane hill. But what a good move. That was a very good move from Taro Dolberg. He just saw the advantage he could have and did it.
Yes, he's been trying for a few laps now, 3 or 4 laps in that same position and not been able to make it, and therefore resorted to running Pierre Père out wide. Ultimately Pierre Père had to back out in virtue of not going on the curb, but that has given Ryan Seltzer the very odd stops for Ryan Seltzer there, pitting this early on. Wouldn't expect a 6-stop strategy in this race, but then again, there you go. But Seltzer said thank you very much, and through he went, and then Jeremy Mook taking advantage of the struggling Jean-Pierre Père said thank you very much as well and went through in the final corner, something he's done twice now. So obviously feeling he's got that advantage in the grandstand section, in that permanent section towards the end of the lap.
And the other interesting thing to consider, of course, is Ryan Seltzer could well have actually fueled himself quite light for the first stint, to push it a little bit more and push himself out of kilter with everyone else. So whilst everyone else will have quite a lot of fuel in the car later on in the race, and their tyres maybe not quite as fresh, Ryan will have less fuel in the car, potentially helping him go quicker, and that could just be the winner for the advantage as he comes out of the final corner. Then almost got up the inside of Dolberg. He's going to try it potentially, not a wise place to do it through the F10 chicane. In fact, he backs out of it, just electing to wait for a moment, but that has killed some of his momentum, so it shows just how difficult it is to follow someone else. You can't just sit behind someone and do exactly the same with them. You're either going to lose a lot of time by having to brake with them or trying to avoid the effects of sitting behind them, and I think Ryan just experienced that, and it's not going to be helping his strategy in one bit. I think he'd be betting for some clean air whilst everyone else start coming to the pit lane. I say this, in all of this, it's about 12.3, 12.5, 12.9 seconds now, the gap between Ferdinand Lechner and Matt Legale in second place. What a great lead so far from Ferdinand Lechner, who, touch wood, is well on his way to potentially, even in these early stages, a third win from 3.
Yes, it does indeed look that way, and we were talking about getting hold of traffic just there, Dan, and that is exactly what's happening to Ryan Seltzer. That last lap, 1.3 seconds down on his best. So while this strategy may give him the fresher tyres at this middle portion of the race, it's not going to give him the track position and the clean air that he needs, and at the moment struggling to get through these slightly slower cars. And looking what it is this time round, last time round it was a 27.6 second lap time as opposed to his best lap of a 26.3. This time round it is a 27.6 again, so another 1.3 seconds off his best lap, and that is probably because he's been held up a little bit by the driver in front of Terrell Dahlberg, and you can see he's visibly quicker as they go towards turn number 4. Just nowhere to make a move at the moment for Seltzer.
And that is the most frustrating thing in a racing driver's sort of mind, is the knowing that you're so much quicker. You can see miles away the body language issue coming off the car. It's just so much more aggressive, so much more comfortable, and so much more fluid. But this is the issue, because you have to start thinking about driving now. You can't just do it subconsciously. You have to think, which is where you're going to start making mistakes, because you're more consciously doing something. We've got 2 cars ahead of him, so Goldberg in 11th and Patsy in 10th. They're going to try and go side by side, and this is a nightmare moment for Seltzer, who can just, he's not even close enough to attack at this point. He's just going to sit there and go, I just need to get past these guys, I just don't have it. Can someone give me a fan boost or something? That's all he needs at the moment.
Yes, if only for these drivers. No assists like that in this sort of race.
Goldberg goes wide though.
Oh, and that is the littlest mistake that Seltzer needs. He's going to have a look down into the final corner. He's only 10th behind, and he's going to make the move.
Good move.
And he does it. Yes, very opportunistic, and gets through into 11th position. I presume he's probably hoping that these drivers would have pitted by now, or at least got out of his way. But
I don't think he would have expected them to be here, in all honesty. I think the strategy would be just to try and find some clean air. Obviously, if he's running 1.3 seconds slower than his quicker lap times, as we've got yellow flags ahead of us actually, so what's going on? Well, Ryan Seltzer in there, Dolberg, everyone's gone on the way, but briefly yellow flag intermission there, which would have slowed them up, but now we sat behind Patsy, who's not the quickest, and that's very wide there for Seltzer. Goodness me, almost put him into the wall. That's what happens when you start, and he's almost going to go into the wall again, catches the curb twice now in about 3 corners, and that is what happens when you have to start thinking about the driving that you're doing, because he's almost done it 3 times now as he goes wide. He's just having to think, you know what, I can't hit the curb, I can't hit the curb, I can't hit the curb. Said it 3 times, bang, bang, bang. Almost cost him the race there and then, and that's what happened.
A mistake in the background for Tobias Marquardt. And a few drivers off here in the background. Tobias Marquardt and also Oliver Louis as well. And Tom Lambert's out the race.
And Tom Lambert is
as well as Andrew Harper.
Andrew
So a number
Harper's,
of retirements here.
yeah, so Tom Lambert's is getting stuck on the curbs coming out of the first sector towards the left, right section of the circuit. Did a few donuts just trying to get the way around. Couldn't get the car to settle though, which a shame for him and a shame for Andrew Harper to be out as well. And we do have now a battle. David Yunt has quietly made his way up into 4th position. Craig Patterson now in 5th in the number 40 Racing in Pyjamas car, very close to the back of the mighty Ford racing car as they head into the final portion of the lap, the permanent section of the Adelaide circuit.
Yes, and Patterson, after that mistake at the start of the race, will be wanting to redeem himself and get back up the order, and at the moment getting closer and closer to David Yunt. Unfortunately not yet on the podium for Patterson, but this will move him quite far up the order in terms of championship, currently sat in the lower half of the top 10, so a move like this into the top half of the top 10 would be very good indeed for his championship chances going to the final 2 rounds. But at the moment, no way of getting past David Yunt, and it does appear that that back straight is going to be his prime opportunity. For at the moment, a few temps down further than he'd like to be for Patterson as they round the left, right once more and onto the long straights to complete the second sector.
And I think potentially David Yunt might actually be coming in this lap. On lap 17 out of 26, so that's starting to come into where you would think they would potentially be pitting. If they're going to do a 2-stop strategy, then sort of 2 divided by 70.
So around 20 laps-ish, so probably at the start of where they're able to pit, I would think, at the moment. But wanting to lay those tyres out a little bit longer than if possible. And at the moment, Patterson, no problem.
So Antonio Navarro then in P8. Ah yes, well his front wing seems to have disappeared just in front of me. So and a few big lockups there for him as well. So he's had a an interesting ride of it. Comes into the pit lane now. Goodness me, that was very close with the wall. You want to be quite cautious in situations like that. Just going to go through the replay now as they swing it ever quicker, and just coming out of the onto the back straight and caught the curb, bounced, hobbled over it straight into the barrier, and Dan Long behind him had to run really wide just to avoid him. As Taro Dolberg now also into the pit lane, so he is in for his first stop as well. I don't believe he had any damage, so as he trundles down the pit lane at 50 miles an hour. Out he goes, and has got a little bit of clean air ahead and behind, so just enough for him to start getting underway again. Ryan Seltzer then up into 11th place, with Jeremy Mimouk now up into 10th place. And Ryan again getting more and more frustrated just because he has to sit back and wait for everyone else around him really to make the positions and do everything sort of their way in order so he can get through. But in fact Jeremy Mook goes very wide, very slow on the exit of the onto the back straight, sorry. Ryan dives back into the toe. He looks to the right hand side, driver's right hand side. He's got the nose clear, he's got the position. Can he get it locked up? Yes, he gets a slight switch on and a couple of bits of contact from Jeremy Mook, who just could not avoid hitting the back of him. They were that close, but Ryan Seltzer, just as he bounces over the curb, keeps it and is now up into the top 10 once again. Part 1 of the strategy jump, but Jeremy Mook goes for a very late move up the inside, coming into the final corner, gets a bit of oversteer on, trying to put the power on too quickly, but a late gas move.
Yeah, but one that seems to have paid off and put him ahead once again. And at this point, Jeremy Mook is holding up drivers that are quicker than him on circuit, which for him could be nothing but good, because when he pits, he'll be closer to these drivers than he would have been if he lets them through. So at the moment, Jeremy making extremely extravagant moves, it has to be said, but I think that move has become his signature move now because he's made it 3 times. Having said that, Seltzer moves to the driver's right hand side once again, but when able to do it as he goes through the left-right. Still to be staying behind, but Seltzer, a great move to get through, but Mook, as we've seen quite a few times from him, able to get back straight away. And once again, that was the case. A
really good sign of driving intelligence from them. He really knows how to drive these cars and how to drive them aggressively, because it's one thing to sit behind someone, it is one thing to overtake him. As Ryan Seltzer again pulls the driver's right hand side. Can he get it stopped much better this time? And Jeremy Mook, actually, another very good sign of intelligent driving, brakes later, uses the slightly less grippy outside line, but used the extra momentum he had, and as he gets a big twitch on, massive tank slapper. What a save there, just as I'm trying to big him up. He must be hearing me because he's just showing off now, that lad. But and now Jean-Pierre goes late at the inside, has a little bit of contact with Seltzer, couldn't get it stopped. Luckily, they didn't really have any big amounts of contact, but that could have been a very painful way for Ryan Seltzer to lose out on yet more positions.
Yes, and back from 14th to 11th. Now he's going to be trying to get past Jeremy Mook once again, and Ferdinand Legner's coming through at this point, our race leader, so already coming up to lap the top 10 drivers in this race. But Seltzer now into 10th position. Whether that would be counted as a driving and a pass under blue flags, we'll have to find out, as Antonio Navarro makes another extremely good move up the inside of Jean-Pierre Père, as Jean-Pierre Père was caught napping behind Jeremy Mook, and Navarro thought, yep, I'll have that move, and goes up to follow his teammate. But at the moment, Ryan Seltzer in that 10th position with his teammate and race leader right behind, and he's going to give Ferdinand Legner a nice big tow along the back straight, and hopefully for Seltzer that means that he'll tow into the tow behind Legner, and indeed he does, and he'll probably going to try and stay there now as the two teammates return. 3 go side by side. Navarro, very late move.
Big sideways moment though, couldn't get it too early on the power.
Yeah, couldn't get it squared off and get it back inside.
He's on the curb,
and now he's gone wide, and Jean-Pierre Père goes up the inside and says thank you very much, au revoir, and up into 12th position.
What a shame for Jeremy Mook, who now comes into the pit. Oh my goodness, he's hit the wall. He's done a crawl pass. Oh my goodness me, what a shame. That was a really big shame for Jeremy, because he'd been driving so fantastically well until that point, and then that's going to be brought up to him, and that needs to be brought up to him, I'm afraid. But he comes in for some slightly fresher tyres, a bit more fuel, and
cleaner tyres as well after that.
Yeah. But what fantastic driving from him. But a shame he got stuck on the curb. He did manage to continue it though. That was going to be the important thing, as we also have David Yunt now into the pit lane.
Yes, so from 4th position allows Craig Patterson to go through. Patterson now into the 1 minute 28 second lap times, and Yunt in his box at the moment making his pit stop. And back down on the ground, and away he goes once again, down into 7th position as Dan Long makes the move, but way ahead of Ryan Seltzer, who was just behind Yunt as they went into the pit lane. So as they went into this pit stop phase, so Yunt obviously on the 2-stop strategy with that move, and now back on his way again into 7th position.
And it was interesting actually how Yunt had positioned his car, so he wasn't square in the box, he was quite diagonally pointed, with the nose pointed pretty much to the exit of the pit lane. Decent stop for him, and actually got away quite cleanly, so must have worked out quite well for him. But as we say, David Yunt has got the perfect sort of break really, where he's got plenty of space between Dan Long in 6th, and plenty of space between Carlos Alba in 8th, so he can just focus on driving around, getting the laps on. In fact, David is starting to close in on Dan Long. However, Dan Long could well be due into the pit lane on this lap. It looks like he could be from my infographic ahead of me. So, as Dan makes his way onto the permanent portion of the circuit. And
also Craig Patterson, who...
And Sathoras is slow. Sathoras is going slowly. And that was an interesting. Why was Johnny Sathoras going really slowly? I thought he just ran out of fuel or something. because he's just struggling because he doesn't seem to be going as quickly.
And that's drama in the pit lane. Oh, sorry, Craig Patterson just gets ahead of his teammate as he comes into the pits, of course with the same pit box. David Yunt, though, gets past Craig Patterson in that pit stop phase. Patterson pitted in response to Yunt's pit stop, but unable to make the position stick after the pit stop phase, and the undercut works well for David Yunt. Now with 3 seconds to Johnny Staforos, who, as you said, was going slowly, but seems to have now recovered in the Hellenic Racing Association car.
Well, that was very strange. I thought he ran out, just completely conked out, ran out of fuel or something, because he just wasn't. There wasn't much in terms of speed as he was going out of the corners. Ah, that's why. Well, he got caught on the curb coming onto the permanent part of the circuit. So the complete 360, slowly gets back on the power. He knew he didn't need to fight Dan Long, as we got Tom Watts now into the pit lane with Jean-Pierre Paire and someone else, that is Matt Legale, side by side on the exit. So the person in second place side by side with the person in 16th, albeit only for the short time in the pit lane. Tom Watts now leaves the box in a flurry of tyre smoke into third place. Staforos does come in this lap, so I was pretty sure his tyres were pretty much shot anyway. So lap 24 now out of 68. We're not halfway through this race, we're slowly getting up to the halfway stage in the race though, and now we're in that period of the race where people are now concentrating on their strategies. As they do start to come into the pit lane, they start to get a little bit more strung out, but we will wait and see. There are still plenty of battles out there, still plenty of great stuff going on here in the third rounds of Season 6 of the Race to Public Grand Prix Championship here from Adelaide.
Yes, and one of those battles going on track is the two drivers quite close together. Antonio Navarro, who's made up a few positions in these last couple of laps, albeit 2 down from his starting position, and Terrell Darberg, who's made up 11 positions, so halfway up the order in the first 23 laps of running, and now into that 11th position, just over a second behind Antonio Navarro as they go through the middle sector of the lap through these tight 90-degree corners, which are really characteristic of street circuits.
Very much so, and I think Adelaide has always been quite an iconic circuit, especially in this older configuration. Very popular with a certain generation of Formula 1 fans, you know, the ones that love the 1,000 horsepower twin turbo cars sailing around here with 4th bar with boost. Obviously you can actually drive that combination in Automobilista, and it is completely nuts. I wouldn't recommend it if you fancy living, but Ferdinand Lechner in a slightly more sedate car, 22 seconds now ahead of Matt Legale, so basically enough for a pit stop just, and a great showing again from Ferdinand, who at the moment has yet to be put a foot wrong and has worked on the sort of complaints and the sorts of things we pointed out before, like his starts for example. He's worked on them, he's got them better. Fantastic start early on in this race, but with still half the race left to go, there's still plenty of time for a potential change, and it just takes one small lapse in concentration and you end up in the barrier.
Yes, very true. Of course, through this final sector that Ferdinand is going through at the moment, a lot easier due to the runoff areas, but as soon as they get past this centre chicane, it really is wall-to-wall stuff, curb to curb, and here you can see it's even over the curb stuff as he goes underneath the bridge towards turn number 4. A slight rise in the road there, which does help your braking slightly, but as it levels off, just about to turn in, which can be difficult. But I was talking in qualifying about the camber in the road that is obviously done for drainage, of course this being real streets, and therefore there's slight camber in the road, so there's a bit of a crown in the centre that drivers have to negotiate, especially an awkward one there as he goes into the middle of the second sector and down towards this very technical right-hander, which it could have been a lot quicker if they wanted it to be, but decided to square it off a little bit, and really is quite a difficult corner.
Yes, it's an interesting thing to have to consider, and especially as you say with the cambers of the actual circuit, it makes driving these cars very difficult because it pulls the car sort of left and right. In a GT car, you can notice it in any form of car, but especially the lighter ones where it does pull you more. You don't feel it as much, you just get pulled in by it, so you've got to really drive with it rather than around it. These sort of higher downforce, very low strong cars, if you tend to try and avoid one thing than the other, I think back to the first Battersea Park Formula E Prix, when they had that massive sort of dip in the middle of turn 1 and 2 where people just get flying over it, and they actually had to fill it in with tarmac just to try and help level it out. But it shows that instance really showed quite aggressively how difficult single-seater cars find it with the smallest of bumps and lumps, let alone the biggest. And around here, as we see with the curves, that can actually really make you jump about a foot off the air, which, you know, doesn't really provide you with a lot of grip. So it's quite important to avoid it unless you can make it work for you. You know, Ferdinand Lechner, he's really shown us he can make it work for him, but other drivers aren't as confident with that sensation, or with the lack of grip, or just with the way that the setup would need to be if you were going to have it perfected like that. So Hockenheim's another very good example with the first turn, where you've got to be careful with the serrated edges. It's interesting, you see these traits on a lot of circuits, but only in street circuits do you get to see it quite so aggressively.
Yes, and another example of that, of course, is the tracks in the road, which is so famous from San Jose, where you've got the Indy cars jumping over the centre of the tram lines, which cause them to go quite far into the air. And we've also got the mistakes, of course, of the Beijing A1 Grand Prix circuit, where they had the hairpin that was too tight for the cars to go round, which was another mistake. But of course, from the natural point of view, from not the man-made, the crown in the road really is a characteristic of city streets, and pretty much all streets now, due to the drainage, and none is more apparent than here at Adelaide through this first sector, as Ferdinand Lechner now negotiating some lap traffic now. I believe he's coming up behind his teammate once again. Yes, he is, just behind Brian Seltzer as they go through this middle sector.
Exactly, and this is where you see drivers who have a very, very good understanding of the road ahead of them. Ryan Seltzer maybe not quite as sure where to put the car, still in the battle though, and he's still got the battle with these guys behind him. So Antonio Navarro is going to take full advantage as he sits in the tow. The Tech 3 racing car in 10th place at the moment, going to try and potentially have a look at the inside coming into the hairpin. Ryan Seltzer dives to the inside line to driver's right hand side. Can he try and do what his teammate did earlier? They make a little bit of contact, but Antonio is going to try and use the outside line to his advantage, then converts it to the inside line at the double apex left-hander. Does make it through. Ryan Seltzer then down to 10th place, but hang on, Tero Dolberg, he's going to make the best out of a bad situation, trying to make it up into 10th place. Now ahead of Ryan Seltzer, sits back for just a second, but Ryan went ever so deep into that corner.
Yes, I'm not quite sure if for the hairpin it was Seltzer who was going too wide into the apex, or if it was Navarro not giving him enough room, but probably one of the other half dozen the other, you know, that kind of situation. But they got through fine, and with the low level of damage we have here in these races, just to prevent that kind of thing, and wheels popping off immediately as drivers make the slightest bit of contact, they were all well and good. But Seltzer looking ever more uncomfortable in this race. He was looking okay at the start of the race, but now struggling to even get into the top 10, and thick within the top 10. He's dropping back every single lap, and it's probably due to make his second pit stop, considering he made the first one within the first 15 laps.
Well, he'd be due in around about. And Tero Dolberg, in fact, makes a big mistake by just jumping over the curb. Even if you run ever so briefly wide, just having contact with the plank underneath the car will really skirt you wide. But if you were saying about Ryan Seltzer, is he will be due in within the next sort of 10 laps or so, and this is not a position he expects himself in. And contact between Albert!
Oh, Albert and Staforos.
Wow, goodness me. What happened there?
That's going to... I believe that was Staforos and Albert trying to go side by side through the penultimate corner, and therefore both spinning, pirouetting in style. It was quite symmetrical and quite rehearsed, but I'm sure it wasn't. But that's put Staforos down to 8th position and Albert up to 7th.
They've been going side by side throughout the entirety of the lap, banging wheels a couple of times, and Staforos coming into the final corner, just brakes so much later. I don't think he misses braking point because he just piles into the back of Carlos Alba. They were literally inches apart, just a large bit of contact which sends them spinning completely round. Both of them are going to have tyres which are going to be ever so slightly worse for wear, but Stathoros really was the instigator of that by just missing his braking point and completely wiping himself and Alba out. And Alba will be coming into the pit lane at the end of this lap, and I imagine Stathoros will be as well. It's a shame that we saw that, although these incidents, when you do follow other cars so closely, have very easily happened.
That's very easy to do, and we've got a spinner here, and Jeremy Mook off the circuit. Rear wing broken and out of the race. And that was at turn number 4, I believe, just running too wide into the corner and straight to the barrier.
I'm just having a quick look at the replay now. A big shame for Jeremy Mook, who's now out of the race, because he was showing so much promise in the first stint. You know, we were praising him fantastically. And a spin for Marquez now as well. Ooh. So it's all happening at this point in the race. And I think in Jeremy's case, just clipped the curb and kept pointing left, so potentially was it looked like a potential connection issue for Jeremy Mook as well. So a big shame for him. So Ryan Seltzer then into the pits, as we called just a few moments ago, leaves the pit box now, down into 12th place, has got some air between Paddy in 11th and Per in 13th, so can now try and go about his business, but this is going to be the race that he's going to have to recover, not one where the strategy ultimately works out. Again, side by side with, of course, Thoros and Albert coming into the hairpin. Albert on the right, Thoros on the left. Albert brakes very late, locks up, keeps the position though, so 7th place for Carlos so far. Johnny really desperately wants a position. A fantastic battle between the pair of them. I imagine they're going to be loving this in the cockpit, but as they head up towards the final couple of corners now, careful lads,
not
don't
again.
do it again, they're bouncing over the curb. Just keeps it slightly more sensible this time though.
Yes, and Stavros has now got the run onto the straight. Probably nothing he can do with it at the fast first section of corners, but possibly something he can do at turn number 4. He's going to go for it anyway. No, he's not. I thought he was for a second, but no. He decides to stay behind for the moment, but he's going to move to driver's left-hand side and make Alba defend the position, which he solely does, and up to 7th position, and staying in 7th position is Carlos Alba. And does this mean he's not made his pit stop, because it was down from making a pit stop, or have they both made them?
No, neither of them have. They're still running out there without having made a stop after the collision. So, I as you said, I thought he was just coming. I think I mentioned it.
And now Forrest has got the run.
He's not going to do it though. No way he can do it coming into that portion of the circuit. It bounces over the curb onto the back straight. And now just sitting in the toe is the important thing, but he has lost a little bit of straight line speed. Making their way now up towards the final couple of corners. And Carlos Alba, I think this is the furthest away they've been for the last 10 laps or so. So, as we are nearing half distance in this race already, Carlos Alba in the Tech 3 car got a decent run. They're going to go side by side once again. Dothoras just drives around the outside, but that's because Carlos Alba
into the pit lane.
Well, there we go. That ruined that, didn't it?
Well, now it ruined it and also helped them not crash again, which is also quite convincing. And now Stavros onto the 1:30, so losing quite a bit of time at the moment as Navarro goes through and takes the position from his turn 3 teammate. Alba out of the pit lane as Dalberg comes round, and Thomas Parsi said he was going to go into the pit lane, but looks like he's decided to continue on unless he's just completely missed the pit stop, and goes back across the line once again, allowing the 2nd position driver there sorry, that was Tom Watts, not Matt Legale. Matt Legale's already gone through. That's Tom Watts going through in 3rd position ahead of the non-pitting Thomas Parsi.
So, as they make their way now through to the end of the first sector. Terry Goldberg now in 10th place, up 12 positions, would you believe? What a fantastic race for him so far. He's got Tom Watts behind him, as has been mentioned. Blue flags are flying. He will get out of the way when Tom is slightly closer. But as they now make their way, this is the issue now in this portion of the race, is everyone's just sort of strung out ever so slightly. They've gotten to those bits in the race where everyone knows where they are on circuit. Then there's not that many battles going on so far. However, that doesn't mean there's not a lot of work going on. There's still plenty of drivers doing a plentiful good job of working behind the wheels to make sure they can get as far ahead as everyone as possible. The only sort of battle I can really see emerging at the moment is between Thomas Patsy and Terry Goldberg in 11th and 10th respectively, although Taras may be coming into the pit lane on this lap. Let's have a look on him. Nope, still not coming in. Maybe he had a scheduled stop and decided not to go for it. He does have actually quite a big, this is a technical term by the way, has quite a big biff in the side of his right side pod. So just a small sign he's been in the wars with that. However, with 33 out of 68 laps gone for him and 34 out of 68 laps gone for Ferdinand Lechner, we are at the half distance and a 27 second gap between himself and Matt Lecale. And Pazzi, he's made contact with Patterson. Oh goodness, wow.
Pazzi was stuck on the curb and therefore couldn't go anywhere, and Patterson couldn't go anywhere either. When he came around the corner he was completely blind other than possibly yellow flag, so I think he was quite close behind Pazzi, so nowhere to go for the Race of Pyjamas car. Luckily, I don't believe any contact for neither party, but Craig Patterson down to 5th position and now 10 seconds behind David Yunt, as he was actually closing in on him before that moment.
And Stathoros has also had a spin in 7th place, just coming into the permanent section of the Adelaide circuit. So not a good few laps really for some of these guys out there, is it? You get to that point in the race where you are starting to get a bit further into the race. You start to not maybe get a bit more complacent, but sometimes you can feel a bit more, okay, well I've got halfway through the race, so I only need to do half a bit more. But you can make so many more mistakes by just starting to count the laps manually. You just need to keep pounding round, not thinking about distance. You just got to go, I've got to get through this, I've got to keep lapping, and I will get to the end eventually.
Yes, it's sort of in 3 sections. You've got the first section, which is all very frantic and trying to get away from the line and get into the first corner and get through the first corner and get through the first lap and the first 10 laps and the first 20 laps. And you've got this sort of middle portion in this middle stint of the race, as it has become, with the drivers making their first pit stop, of just driving around, maybe gaining 1 or 2 positions from other drivers' mistakes, then losing one from you make a mistake.
And Patterson's round again.
Indeed he is, and that is turn number 6. He's gone round.
Just too much power.
Yeah, once again, the same issue as he had earlier in the race.
It's easy to make very similar mistakes. If you're not quite sure, not quite certain with some cars, you can just easily put just, 50 pence piece worth of, or maybe a couple of cents worth of too much power, but that can just be enough to completely spin you around. It's not easy to do it with an engine which is quite sort of low, very linear in terms of power delivery like these.
Yes, and the problem is these cars, they're not very much torque low end, but once they get going, they do get going, so you've got to rev them quite high, which is quite rare for a car of this size, so you do have to keep them going to get them round the circuit quickest, and therefore you see drivers moving down to first gear into a hairpin, whereas with a higher powered car you'd see them going into second or even third gear through these hairpins. So that is the reason for that, is because they don't want to bog down out the corners, and as soon as that power comes, if you've got a bump as well to contend with, or a curb, that can just send you in a spin. I think that's what. And
Lechner's. Oh wow! Let's go and investigate this. But apologies, Peter. But yes, Lechner may have spun.
Yes, no fault of his own, we believed. Believe contact with Matt Cook possibly, as he is very close behind Lechner at the moment.
So as they head up towards the permanent part of the circuit, and Matt Cook just locks the rear brakes, turns in, gets a load of oversteer, and Ferdinand just has to avoid it. He couldn't avoid it. He just clips him and can continue on. No real damage, so that was fine. But just struggled really to avoid it. But there was a mistake from Cook, which caused the issue with Lechner, who got really stuck and slow, as opposed to and Matt Gallet's
on the
now.
second position driver.
Wow, so it's all happening at the moment. That was through the Ayrton Senna S's.
Yes, luckily no damage by the looks of it. Wiggles around to check, a little bit of a lock up into the next corner, but he had his teammate right behind him, so maybe a little bit of extra pressure from his teammate that caused him to spin, but that's put another 10 seconds on Lechner's lead, which is now reaching 40 seconds.
And he's not coming to the pit, so that will be 25-ish seconds, I believe. I think, in fact, has Lechner actually pitted yet?
I believe so, because he did have a 20-second lead prior to Matt Lagalle's pit stop, so you'd think so.
Right, so let's have it. I'm going to investigate this. So, he's been doing 24s, 25s, 26s, 27s. Yes, he pitted on lap 24 with a 141.1. So he came in on 24, and so he can go till 48. Which will be fine, you know. Theoretically, he will just do it if he's going 24 laps, 24 laps, 24 laps. So,
in fact, he could do 22 laps and he'll make it with two 22-lap stints, depending on what he wants to do, of course.
he may find it's easier to overfuel the car over the next stop. Or overfuel the car at the start and then the first stop, and then bring the fuel loads down. It does make it slightly easier, and it makes the stops quicker as well. So you can gain more by being quick in the pits than you can be by being quick on the circuit at times. So, and there's only 6 cars at the moment which are on the lead lap now. Craig Patterson's the only person not to, or the last person on the lead lap in 6th place, who's 1 minute and 23 behind. He actually dives into the pit lane, so he's about to get a lap taken from him as well. So now there's only 5 cars on the lead lap. What a great performance from Ferdinand though.
Yes, very consistent, and 25, so a second and a half down on, in fact just over a second down of where he wanted to be, but at the moment, going through the paces at the moment, Patterson returns into 6th position, so no positions lost, just quite a bit of time due to the pit stop, and was the only driver in the pit lane at that moment. So is that one stop for Craig Patterson, or is that I believe that's his 2nd stop in fact?
I think it is. Yes, it is his 2nd stop, because he came in at the same time as Tom Watts, I believe.
Yes, hence the kerfuffle in the pit lane between the racing pyjamas cars. Yes. And
I've seen interesting little battles developing so far for 10th and 11th. Our friend Terry Dolberg in 10th at the moment. Ryan Seltzer again got the bit between his teeth. Is starting to close in on Terro. So the battle for 10th is about to reignite. On his last lap, he was only 0.2 of a second, or 0.02 of a second slower than his fastest lap in the entirety of the race. He goes very deep on the brakes coming into turn number 4, and Seltzer retakes 10th position, although it goes very slowly. Had to give the position back, although Terry Dolberg then throws the position away again. So it's cat and mouse with the mistakes they're making at the moment.
I'm not quite sure what went on there. Terro is making a stop. However, that shouldn't deter Ryan Seltzer from making a move. Of course, he doesn't know that fact that we know from our commentary position. So unusual that Terro is letting Ryan through and wants him to go through and wants him to go on his own race, which
Carlos Alba's going slowly.
Oh, Alba!
He's out of fuel. The car's off. The car's been turned off, and he must have run out of fuel. That's the only thing I can imagine, and that has got to be with about a sector to go. So close, but yet so far for him, and that will be the end of his race.
So that is going to be the 6th driver out of the race. And had he made a pit stop previously? Yes, on lap 31.
So the car, it must have only put 4 laps of fuel in. Sometimes with Automobilista, when you're not setting up your fueling strategies correctly, even though you think you've put fuel in the car, it hasn't picked it up automatically, so it will have underfueled it, and he might not have realised this, so...
Very unfortunate turn of events though. Very unfortunate. And Terrell Darberg still hasn't pitted.
I think he will be.
Yes, he seems to be struggling with something. He's definitely not going as quick as he could be able to.
I think he just doesn't have that confidence in the car now. The tyres are more or less gone. I think it's just waiting to... in fact, his pit marker's ignited again, so I'm assuming we'll see him in on this lap. But to make it almost 40 laps on one set of tyres / fuel, that's nearly an hour's worth of running from the car, which is a lot more than I was expecting.
In fact, it appears Terrell was on lap 17, I believe.
But even still, that's actually, what, 26 odd laps? He's not coming in, so he's still staying out.
That's 23 more laps as well to add to that, so a reasonable stint length, but obviously due to the current state of the tyres and the fact he had to pit so early, he wants to stretch this set out in order to get further into the race, in order to have a shorter last stint. That may be my guess.
We've got 28 laps until the end of the race, so he's not going to make it if he doesn't.
Yes, I believe he will pit. I think he's just waiting a little bit later so he has a shorter last stint.
Yeah, well that's what I mean, he's got to, else he'll have to do a splash and dash come the end of the race, because if standard length stints about 24-25 laps, with a bit of lift and coast you can push up to 26, but you're not going to get an extra 2 laps out of it realistically with green flag running, so he's got to push it for another couple of laps until he can afford to do it. Dan Long's out. Dan Long, in fact, has spun from 5th place coming onto the back straight.
Yes, he's no pressure from any drivers behind, so he can get back underway and get going again, but he was quite close to David Jones. In fact, was he in front of David Jones? I believe he was. No, he wasn't in front of David Jones. However, he's a lot further behind than he was.
And Dan Long has been one of the good people to follow in this series so far, because he has been very consistent and very quick, but unfortunately that mistake has really cost him.
So I'm just looking down the field a little bit, and we've got a great battle going on between Tobias Markout and Matt Cook for 13th position. Banzai TCC versus CM Garage as they go towards the section onto the back straight, and a good run from Matt Cook. Not close enough at the moment though. Still a few attempts too far back to gain the full advantage of the slipstream. I'm just trying to think who that is behind him. I believe that's a lap car behind him as well.
Oliver Louis laps, yeah.
Yes, so Oliver Louis obviously not going to interfere with this battle, but still sapping away his slipstream as well. Oh, and that's a mistake for Tobias Markout into the permanent section. Dirt on the tyres now, and round the outside goes Matt Cook, and he's going to have to back out of that, but again Markout late on the brakes and a lock-up, and Markout just stays ahead for now, but with severely worn tyres I should think after those 2 mistakes.
And you can see the flat spot on the front right hand tyre, that's going to be vibrating like hell, especially going through these bumpier parts of the circuit. Once you get a big lock-up, you can invite so many more, and you could smell the pressure that he was under, really struggling with it at the time, so hopefully he can stay ahead for a few more laps. However, maybe his confidence is starting to ebb away.
Yes.
Steve Legale spun out of the Ayrton Senna chicane, in fact, as well, from 15th position, just flicking through the order just to double check it to make sure we've not missed anything. And unfortunately, poor old Steve, one of our wonderful guys we have so often with us in all of our clubs and leagues here at Race Department, and just gets it wrong on the second portion of the curbing the Ayrton Senna chicane. did hit the car hit the wall with the back end, but luckily it didn't hit it too heavily, so he can continue to fight another day.
Yes, Tom Watts closing in on Matt Legale. He has been doing for the last couple of laps. Now the Racers Pyjamas car is getting ever closer to that LG Racing car up ahead, and at the moment Legale staying in that second position, but the gap teetering around 1.5 to 2 seconds at the moment as they go on to lap number 44 this time around, and the 1.7 second gap at the moment may come down though in the future. As we flick back to that battle between Tobias Marquardt and Matt Cook, which has stretched out a little. Matt Cook 2 seconds behind now, so no pressure for Marquardt now, able to run his own laps in this race.
And Matt Legale's last lap was in fact quicker than Tom Watts's, so that battle slightly ebbing out there. I mean, hopefully they will close up, and I imagine they will close up very shortly. However, Tom has been going well for some portions and struggling with others. He's been another one of our slightly inconsistent performers over the course of the last few races, where you can either have a really fantastic race where you can get really good results, or you can just struggle down in the midfield.
Yes, and I think it's that consistency that he's been lacking as a whole that has stopped him from getting up into that top 3 in the championship.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's been struggling with, and hopefully this is another confidence-inspiring drive for him. Third place, which is not bad at all for him, and we can just wait and see. Hopefully he will. If he does score this position, hopefully it will inspire him to sort of work on his consistency and hopefully give him a bit more consistency and experience within the car. So, fingers crossed for him by all means. As into the pit lane comes Navarro now, so from 8th place for him, and Antonio now the only Tech 3 racing car left in the race, which is a real surprise. We weren't expecting that a few laps ago, as Ryan Seltzer with his alternate strategy now moving himself up into 8th place, and Antonio Navarro re-emerging in 9th with 44 out of 68 laps left to go. But it is Ferdinand Lechner, 42 seconds. The answers to the life universe and everything, but what is the question? Well, is he going to win the championship? That's going to be quite an important question, I suppose. Lap 46 out of 68 for him, and another fantastic drive for him. We've expected this of him by now. You know, he runs the number 10, doing really well. Matt Legale in 2nd place is doing very well also, but is uncertain. Tom Watts in the Racing in Pyjamas car is emerging as a threat for 2nd place, and on a day where Racing in Pyjamas again struggled a little bit with the whole team. However, they have got one bullet in the gun, as they say, left to see whether they can get as far up in the order as possible. We haven't got an awfully long time in this race left to go, but we do have enough time to sort of see more changes happening and more stuff happening. But do let us know if you're watching this live, tuning in at home. Drop us a comment on the Twitch box, or tweet us at Race Department hashtag RDGPC. Do let us know if you're enjoying it, and what you're thinking of the racing throughout the first few events, all 3 events here, and also come and join us. Come and join our online community, of course, if not already. Come and join us for some fantastic club racing efforts, as well as our very well organised leagues. If you are a brand new member, in fact, you can try out 3 or 4 actual club races to come and see what you think of the atmosphere. You can come and join us, get a bit of a taste of it before you can then sign up and pay as a full member for a year, and it's something like €10. It's not a lot for the amount of fantastic racing you can get, not just on Automobilista, but on all the big sims as well. You know, Race Room, you've got Project Cars 2, Raw Factor 2, loads of great stuff here to come on Race Department throughout 2018 as well. So, plenty of good stuff to enjoy here, Peter.
Yes, and adding to that, we've got a new league starting as well, new club events, Wreckfest, as it is now known. Has started tonight, and a number of people joining in on that, I noticed. So another one to add to the game roster, as well as all the favourites, of course, and any new games that do come out, whether it be the predecessor to Automobilista or a brand new franchise, should it be GTR 3 or any of the new video games that seem to pop up out of nowhere and then do fantastically. And of course, the other added bonuses to the premium membership are that you get no advertisements. So if you like an ad-free window on your race department website, you can get that as well, which is a great inclusion to the premium membership. And definitely hop along if you want to learn from the best, because these are indeed some of the best drivers in the world of sim racing.
Absolutely, and I think one thing that we'll be definitely looking at race department at some point in the future will be the new race room, the Porsche pack, which is going to be coming very soon. That's going to be fantastic. If you've not seen the previews of the 991 GT3 Cup car, then I would highly suggest you go and have a look, because it's another fantastic car for race room, a different game, similar engine, because it's basically the ISI G Motor 2 engine, but the race room really matured over the past few months.
Yes, and I believe from what it's come from as well, it's a simple time trial simulator to what it is today, with an expansive online mode and expansive packs and opportunity to choose your own content and try it out as well. It really is a great option for those looking to get into sim racing. Automobilista obviously as well, a fantastic choice for those of you who like the variety of formula cars, single seaters. You've got the touring cars, you've got the stock cars, you've even got trucks, off-road cars, you name it, it's probably there. Karts, if you're into that kind of thing, it's there and it's waiting for you to try out. And at the moment, with the winter sales coming up, I should think some of these sims will be on offer as well, so look out for those bargains. And if you want to get into sim racing, race department is your place to go for the first place, and definitely to find out more about why you should get into this very, very, very fun and addicting hobby.
It is. It's rather entertaining, and the other good thing to sort of note as well is you don't need a computer that's the same power as the sun in order to run these games. Slightly older engines, but that means that it is slightly more optimized for older hardware. It is very easy to push. Like for example, my PC is slightly higher spec, I know, than some, but I run a 144 Hz monitor, which is absolutely fantastic, I'm not going to lie, but it's great, the sort of variety of the hardware that you can use with these. And even if you haven't got the biggest £3,000 supercomputer with a Titan XPP and an i7 7820X and all that, you don't need high-end hardware. You can do it with very modest equipment. And as they come into got Matt Legale now into the pit lane in third place. David Yunt also coming into the pit lane in fourth. So the final round of pit stops all happening now, as well as Johnny Thoros in seventh place, also starting the pits at the moment. So as everyone gets going once again for the final round of pit stops, this is where we will wait and see the final stint. Ryan Seltzer up to seventh place now. So his strategy starting to take effect, but too little too late really for him.
Yes, especially considering he's got 45 seconds to Nick Patterson in front of him. I should think it is a case of too little too late for Seltzer. And with the fact that he pitted on lap 15, was it? Something like that? So you had 20 laps to go. 35 then to 55. He's going to have to make another stop yet, so it may be that he's not even in the top 10 by the end of this race.
It would be a big surprise if he wasn't in the top 10. He's been going well. He had obviously the struggles with traffic early on in the race. However, with the not a particularly long time in the race left to go, we're on lap 50 in a moment out of Megale, and Tom Watts has gone wide into the barrier in the entrance of the pit lane. Matt Legale was in second place, but he did come into the pit lane, which is why he dropped out of second place. But Tom Watts overcooked it massively coming into the pit lane, so that is almost going to guarantee that he won't be in second place come the as Matt Legale comes over the line now. In fact, yeah, Matt Legale over the line now. David Yunt only just coming onto the start-finish line, so is not really going to be close enough in order to challenge Tom Watts. However, he could close up if Tom makes a further mistake.
Oh, and I heard a lot
into the wall by the ZMSs.
I heard a lot of, and that's Seltzer.
And he's beached. In fact, he just gets it going with the skin of his teeth. But that was a very hot amount of stuff there for Ryan, who probably did have a little panic that he was out of the race.
Oh, and he's gone wide again at the next corner.
So Ryan really will be struggling on his tyres. Flat spots, there's definite flat spots in his car. That could be why, and probably was why, he is struggling on the tyres, because if you put just a little bit of pressure on the wrong point of the tyre, especially with the flat spot, it will only drag and drag and drag and drag, which is not going to be great for him. Steve Legale's come out of the pit lane, and Craig Patterson also just leaving the pit lane, so he remains in 6th place for the time being. But Ryan Seltzer will be kicking himself, absolutely kicking himself.
Yes, and his strategy that may have worked out seems to be now slightly undone as he comes round once again, 19 seconds in front of him, and he's coming under pressure. And Terrell Dalberg, who has, it's got to be said, has got to be the mover and shaker of this race, moving up to 9th position from the back of the grid, and it's still with 18-19 laps to go. He's got a great opportunity to get up into 8th place here, as Seltzer will undoubtedly make a pit stop soon as Navarro goes off. Just seen the end of that, and Navarro off at the fast right-hander, completely spins and into the camera as I was watching it, and he goes off the circuit. And is that Steve Legale also off?
Steve Legale, it was Steve Legale, not Matt Legale.
Yes, Steve Legale and I believe Antonio Navarro were involved in that.
Yes, it was Antonio Navarro who went off. It looks like, from what I saw, he just made a complete hash of it, trying to go out to the final corner. It looks like a lag spike, actually. It just sort of bounces through the wall. Steve Legale goes wide at the next corner, and then gets sort of plummeted and hit into. And as Into the Barrier would always say, that is definite aliens going on.
And while we've been watching that, Terrell Dalberg has had to concede some track time to our race leader of Ferdinand Lechner as he puts 2 laps on these drivers, and that's halted a possible change of position for Dalberg getting past Seltzer, as Dalberg now goes over the curb, and that's not going to be good. Right over the, Seltzer very wide. But this is the thing, Seltzer is so much slower than Dalberg at this point in the race. If I was Seltzer, I'd definitely be coming into the pit lane at this point, because with those tyres, he's not going to be able to get to the end with just the 2 stops he's done. And look at him moving around there. He's moving around all over the place.
But he knows something we don't. He knows his strategy. Maybe he is trying to go so he can just have a 10-lap dash for the cash right at the end of the race, where we'll be at his absolute peak. We mentioned this earlier, but we've just got to wait and see. But Ryan can defend all he likes because he's not got much to lose. Terrell Dalberg's the one who maybe still got that feeling and he wants to prove himself for something. In 9th place, he desperately wants 8th place. But as they head up towards the left and the right, down by the markets, I believe, big lump of curb being taken there by Terrell. Once, twice and 3 times. You don't want to make a habit of running too wide, because ultimately you can cost yourself a lot of time looking right, looking left, trying to look for every single move. As
Seltzer, another mistake.
Horrendously slow through there, and the position does switch. Ryan will sit back in the tow though. Any mile an hour is a good mile an hour for him, but we can see if you brake later trying to use the outside line, you can make the position. You're not really going to get the cut back through there because it's just too tight, but the around the top effectively is a very good move. But Terrell at the moment has made a decent move out of that with 17 laps left to go.
Yes, and a move that I think for his race he needs to be making. I think for Seltzer it's neither here nor there, because he's got 35 seconds back to Antonio Navarro, which is plenty for a pit stop. So he doesn't really need to worry about that gap behind him as long as he keeps it over 30 seconds or thereabouts. But for him, I think for Dalberg, I think that is a move that needed to be made sooner rather than later, because he was getting held up.
Ryan Seltzer desperately tried to throw it at the inside coming into the final corner. So it's just remarkable, really, that Tero's race, 14 positions he's made during the course of the race. And whilst Stathoros is 23 seconds ahead, so not much potential for another position. You know, if he did make another one, it would be a fantastic for him, and it's done him a world of good. Really fantastic driving from him.
Yes, and he's currently sitting 7th in the standings. Just having a quick look, level with Barnes Waring. Waring not here today, so this will put Dahlberg up the order and ahead of Waring, and probably ahead of Marquardt as well, because Marquardt is just ahead of him in the standings, so currently sitting 13th in this race. 25 points between them, but with the 5 positions between them, it may just be enough to get close to him enough. But at the moment, up to 8th position, already 3 seconds to Ryan Seltzer.
Again, it's just showing what fresh tyres do for you, isn't it?
Yes, and I believe that strategy from Seltzer's not quite working out as he'd intended. Probably getting held up too much in the mid-pack of the race, but now 3 seconds down in his best lap. And sliding around a lot through the centre S's.
It's just that lateral grip he's struggling with. It's the actual sort of the age of the tyres and the actual weight of the tyres as well not helping him. It's just not having the confidence ultimately in the car to do what he wants it to do, especially the later stage of the races where you've got to try and drive around it, but it is so much more difficult.
And hugely sideways there as well, so not a very good move there for Seltzer as he tries to get this car around the circuit. Of course, the number 1 plate, because he won the last RDGPC, which was with the Indy cars. However, with these Formula 3 cars, very much a different kettle of fish, and that's being shown here with the difficulty that he's having today.
It is. It's a very different and very difficult challenge to adapt from a very big Indy car, and I think Ryan maybe likes to come. R Factor 2 handles very differently itself. It's never been a sim that I've really been able to dial my force feedback into, and I must admit it's not something I've ever really felt that comfortable when I've been driving. But I know some people don't like the feeling of Automobilista. I like the sort of feel of this sim compared to most others. And so I know Ryan potentially may not get on with the sim inherently as much as others. You know, just you'll see in real life with different drivers and different cars. Different GT3 cars are a perfect example where some drivers love one but struggle with another. So it's adapting, and it's that adaptability that you can struggle with sometimes.
Yes, very much so, and adapting from one sim to the other isn't just as simple as turning on a different game and loading the different circuits. There's a lot more technicalities to it.
Tom Watts has spun.
And that's closed the gap right now between Tom Watts and David Yunt. And Yunt now right on the rear of the Racing Pyjamas car. Dives the inside just to let him know he's there. A little lock up for Yunt as well as he mounts the curve into the final corner. But for the moment, Tom Watts continuing in that 3rd position.
Well, ultimately now David Yunt can see him. He's out. He's in the mirrors. He can just poke his nose in every once in a while, just to go, hey Tom, I'm here, you know, I want to come through on the inside, or I want to go around the outside, you know, probably not in as immature a voice as mine, potentially, but, you know, the point is there, is they've got Steve Legale a bit of traffic ahead of them, and Tom now knows he's there. Tom now can feel the pressure under the collar. He can be pulling the collar very hotly, and as they make their way onto the latter stages of the lap, with Steve Legale still being given the blue flags at the worst part of the circuit. This is only going to be helping David Yunt. Tom Watts is going to be incredibly frustrated as David Yunt makes a mistake. He goes round.
And just when he had Tom Watts as his most vulnerable as well, having made the spin, all that work has been undone for David Yunt, and he's going to have to be hoping for another mistake from Tom Watts, because I was about to say, once you've made one mistake, it's very easy to make a second. However, if you make a second, if the other driver makes a mistake, then that's a lot of pressure off your shoulders, and we've just been shown that. Steve Legale and a bit sideways here into the permanent section of the circuit, and that's going to give David Yunt a bit of a heart attack as he comes into the final sector, not wanting to see a lapped car there as Legale gets out of the way out the final corner. but Yunt probably not where he'd like to be now with that 5-second gap to Tom Watts.
So unfortunately, what could have been a great end to this race for now has been halted, but that isn't to say that we're not going to we could not see that in an extra few laps, but we'll wait and see. And 10 laps to go then. Wow, this race is flying by quickly.
Yes, especially with Ferdinand Lechner putting in lap times that have put him now a minute ahead of everyone else. I think really showing his class once more, and absolutely no mistakes, just perfect on the curves, not hitting any of the curves, but still staying relatively simple and straightforward. Having said that, he's got 2 slower cars up ahead of him, so he's got to negotiate these. Of course, the difficulty here is that the driver in front of him there has got to get past the driver in front of him, whereas Lechner all wants to get past both of them. So Lechner now doing so as he goes past those 2 drivers there. And I believe that was Thomas Parsi and Tobias Marquardt, who are actually in a very good battle here for 12th position. And Marquardt all over the back of Parsi here in this final sector, letting the leader go by. And Marquardt now with that 10 laps to go has now got the opportunity to get past the driver in front and possibly make a move in this latter sixth of the race.
And as you say, Tobias just waiting in the wings at the moment. He's not close enough to make a position. He's not close enough to really force a move. He could potentially force an error, but he just has to sit back and wait for a better opportunity to arise him. And as they go through the apartments and the houses here at 4, 5 and 6, it's not going to happen so far, but Thomas is just going to Tamas is just going to keep making mistakes and locking up his car and running wide and making little mistakes in order to not help himself. And Terra Dahlberg is out. Oh goodness me, that is a shame. I'm just going to have a quick look at the replay. So he's just lagged, I think.
And Parsi has let Tobias Marquardt through.
So maybe he just knew that his car wasn't up to it and he just couldn't fight. But of course, both being teammates, that's going to potentially help in the Drivers' Championship as well.
Marquardt, of course, as I mentioned earlier. In fact, Daryl Dahlberg now out of the race, so that's irrelevant now. However, Marquardt will be wanting all the points he can, being in 6th position for that team. Whereas Parsi is sat down in 23rd position at the moment. So this is going to add a huge chunk of points to his tally.
And it's playing that team game, isn't it? Just in these late stages of the race.
Yes, it seems to be that team strategy that is working out for Banzai at the moment. And currently 11th and 12th in the running order.
But as they now make their way through the first portion of the sector, and Padsy there with a big slide on, just getting a little slightly too much on the throttle. Did keep it in though, which was good.
Marquardt the same as him through turn 5, so both drivers obviously struggling a little bit in these latter stages of the race, but obviously both gunning for these final few positions. They've got quite a large gap to Jean-Pierre Paire ahead of them, however. At the moment I think it's just a race between themselves. Now with 1 second gap before Marquardt, he can rest easy for a few laps as Parsi mounts the curb on the exit of the right-hander.
Well, as they now continue to make their way along the back straight, just 10 laps left to go, or 9 laps left to go if you're the race leader, but it's turning up as ever a fantastic race here at Race Department. What a race.
Yes, and just looking on board with Ryan Selson now with the little mechanic spanner symbol which indicates he's going to make a pit stop. Currently 21 seconds ahead of Antonio Navarro, and with that last 10 laps, as you aforementioned, hoping to make a last 10 lap adjustment to get through these fast 10 laps quickly, and Navarro closing though. He's closed about a second within the last sector alone, hence why Seltzer is now pitting, and he finds his box just near the end of the lane for the mighty fourth, and he will be on his way soon enough. But Navarro, I believe, will be able to overtake him because he's only 10 seconds behind at this moment in time. Seltzer goes back on the ground, a few extra bits of fuel going in, but Navarro onto the straight, and it's going to be very close between them. But
out
Navarro
of the pit box now,
does get through.
In fact, down to 9th, as you say. He's got work to do. He's got the speed. We know he's got the speed, but ultimately, can he do it? He was about 10 seconds off a fast in lap on that last lap was Ryan Seltzer. So, by all accounts, he's really having slowly, but already he's significantly caught up to Navarro. It might be only a few points, but that's a lot. Ryan, Antonio's just going to have to hold on because I don't think he's going to be able to keep him back.
Yes, Antonio just letting a quicker driver through. That was, I believe, Mark Legale. So just let him through, so that may have followed him up slightly, but even so, it's gone down to 1.7 from 3 seconds already, so it's not going to be too long until Seltzer's all the way over the back, and those fresh new tyres, they feel so lovely after what was 25-30 laps on that worn old tyres.
As they now make their way up towards the hairpin, and Ryan, who is also being given blue flags, so he's got attacks from front and rear, and he's just dying in the car. I mean, he's had a lap to put the temperature into the tyres to get back into the rhythm of it. He's going to be feeling very light, he's going to be feeling very quick, and Antonio Navarro just won't have an answer for it. What's the lap time going to be over this? It's going to be very quick indeed. The gap is starting to come down. 1.8 seconds so far, 26. It was 32.1 for Ryan Seltzer on that one. He's got 5 seconds to find to top his best, but I fully expect he can and will do it with 8 laps left to go for him, which means we're going to have 7 laps left to go in the race itself. 6 laps even.
Yes, Ferdinand Lechner just going on to lap number 63 lap, as he goes through the centre chicane for one more time. Now the 1 minute 5 second gap at the front of this race, so once more an exemplary showing from Ferdinand Lechner. He's got just 5 laps to bring it home now, and he can lose, what, 12 seconds a lap and still be in front at the end, so I don't think he's got much to worry about at the moment.
And no, exactly, he's not. He's just going to sit at the front going, you know what, I can just sit, stop, have a quick sandwich, and I'd still be ahead of everyone else. He's been doing fantastically as ever, and he's got to be a dead cert for the championship. Even at this relatively early stage, it's round 3, but with only 2 rounds left to go, we've got to start thinking he's got to be champion-elect.
Yes. He's only got a 22-point lead over Matt Legale, and with Legale finishing second, it's only going to extend another 5 points. But even so, with that, 27 points is a lot, and it's going to take a large chunk of points for Legale to get ahead of Lechner. With what's been shown here, if you can win by a minute at pretty much every single round is contested, then I feel it's not going to be easy for other drivers to catch back up in the remaining 2 rounds.
So, where are our next 2 rounds then?
We move to Brasilia, the full circuit, and then to Alton Park International.
So that's going to be an extra 2 very exciting races to round out the 6th series of the Race Department Grand Prix Championship, and I'm certainly looking forward to it.
Yes, I think 2 very different circuits offering 2 very different challenges, but Brasilia, more open, you know, you've got the fast outer section and then the tighter infield section, which almost feels like a large go-kart track. And
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Navarro's trying to defend now from Ryan Seltzer for 8th place. Just had to defend it. Luckily, he could just do it. He tries to go, Ryan Seltzer tried to go around the outside, almost made the position, although didn't quite do it. Coming into the final couple of corners, so it could be a very late move from Ryan. He's certainly going to be thinking about it, can't throw it at the inside, didn't really dare about it. although I certainly thought he had the confidence to do so. Right on the nose, coming over the line to start lap 62 for them, 64 for our race leaders. He's having to get off the throttle, that's how much he's having to wait. You can sense he's much quicker. 27.2 on that last one for Ryan, and he lifted off about 3 times, so he could have had an extra second in speed there to top his best lap there.
Yes, but he's also got a lapped car behind him as he goes for the inside. Oh, very late move. But as he's made it stick though, and gets through just after the lap car comes through. So Seltzer, a very tactical move to get through just before he needed to let the lap car through.
Well, I think Antonio Navarro sort of knew that he couldn't defend for too much longer, so in the end just went, you know what, you can have the position, it's not like I'm going to be able to resist you for that much longer. And Ryan now is just going to be going out there doing qualifying lap after qualifying lap after qualifying lap. He just wants to go quickly. So as Tom Watts just gets past them, everyone else now just having to just trundle round really. 65 out of 68 now for Ferdinand Lechner. He's completed 64 laps on lap 65, so...
We mentioned that it wasn't over between David Young and Tom Watts, and it certainly isn't, just under a second between them. After Tom Watts has been held up slightly by Ryan Seltzer in these last laps, and that's a little bit of his teammate helping out there for Tom Watts, as Ryan Seltzer now lets David Young and Tom Watts through. His teammate David Young benefiting hugely from that, now under a half a second behind Tom Watts as they fly through the Shannon chicane, but only 4 laps left for David Young to pick his moment to make the move and get past Tom Watts. Tom Watts wide into turn 4, kisses the apex perfectly at turn 5, but as does David Young. David Young looking slightly more controlled in these last few laps.
And with just a few laps left to go, as you say, David Young with the bit between his teeth. We've said this before, but he can see him, but he just needs to go that little bit further in order to make the position and try and get there. But with little mistakes like he had then, he's not going to help himself at all. Heading up towards the big long back straight, as I like to call it, TM. It's in the toe on Tom Watts. He's going to try and make a move. Essentially, he's far too far back. He's just having to get out the toe, which is the only other thing I can think of, because the engine and brakes are starting to overheat. At this late stage in the race, they're still susceptible to potential issues. So, as we are now very close to the end of the race, but can David Young make third place his?
That is the big question, as he locks up hugely into the final corner trying to close down on the brakes, but at this time he doesn't care about the tyres, he wants that position, and it's just about going as fast as possible. And with that last lap, he was 2 tenths quicker than Watts, but it's not enough to gain up the time he needs as they go through towards this turn 4, 5, 6 section once again. And David Young once more making a big lock-up into the left-hander, into the right-hander, and the little one into the left-hander as well. Few little lock-ups here for David Young, not helping his cause as he tries to close in desperately on the Racing Pyjamas car in front of him. Going through the left-right now, fast left-right, and in these cars, at this point in the race, there's no point in trying to slow down as he gets a big wiggle out the corner. David Young just catches it as it goes towards the back straight once more, but it's gone back up to a second.
And he's made a mistake, that's the biggest one!
Second time during this race.
What a shame.
Yeah, that was climaxing to something huge there, and unfortunately for David Young, wasn't quite able to close in enough on Tom Watts.
And
Tom Watts slightly more composed there.
Well, that's what you need to do sometimes, is just be a little bit more patient. He might have just got quite excited at the fact that he was nearly about to take an extra position. Okay, that was a new one, but potentially, I mean, I don't know whether you guys heard that one as well, but yeah, anyway, so with about a lap left to go, in fact it is Ferdinand Lechner is about to start his final lap of the race. Over the line now, 68 out of 68. This is the final penalty. Steve Legale has been given a drive-through penalty. I'm not sure what that one's for actually. Although he's got to take that this lap, so Okay, that is a new one. We'll have to find out about that.
And he's not done.
He's not come into the pit, so maybe he's expecting that to be revoked. But as we are on the last lap, Peter, what a drive again from our friend, Mr. Ferdinand Lechner.
Yes, and it's something we've to expect now in this series, is that Ferdinand will be about a minute up the road, and then we'll have the battle behind him. And once more, for the third time in this season, in the third time of asking, Ferdinand has delivered. And with 1 minute 8 seconds around a circuit this difficult and this technical, that is an extraordinary feat. And you can just see from watching him in this final sector of the lap, this final sector around this Adelaide circuit tonight, just how perfect his pinpoint driving is as he heads onto the permanent section once again, through the left, through the right, and then rounds the final corner for the final time. And what will be the third time out of 3, Ferdinand Lechner will take the win here at Adelaide, and surely on his way to a championship. Ferdinand Lechner wins here at Adelaide, 1 minute 7 seconds ahead of Matt Legale in the end, who is still circumnavigating the first sector, which just shows the gap that he has at the front.
And well done again to Ferdinand Lechner, who takes the win. Matt Legale will come round to take second place ahead of Tom Watts and David Yunt, with Dan Long in 5th, Craig Patterson in 6th, with Sir Thoros, Ryan Seltzer, Tony Navarro and Jean-Pierre Père rounding out the top 10. Turns out Steve Legale's drive-through penalty was actually removed by the live steward, so there you go, problem solved. Thomas Padzi will come home in 11th place ahead of Tobias Monkrod. Matt Cook, Steve Legale in 14th, Oliver Louis in 15th. The last of the runners out there, with Tero Dolberg not finishing with 55 laps completed. Carlos Alba, Joe Muke and Tom Lambert, also Andrew Harper, Christian Zorner and Mark Breslin all retiring from the race. And it's been a fantastic race, especially Tero Dolberg's fantastic driving. It's really shown the maturity out there and the great strength with driving out there. But I think if we were going to give anyone the drive of the day, it would have to go to Max Verstappen.
Yes, certainly. I mean, he's been on form today, and he has been on form all season long, and he's definitely on his way to take the championship at this point in the race and bring back the Dutch GP and bring back the Dutch fans and bring back everything.
Exactly.
Sorry, that was a bit too far.
But
I got a bit carried away there.
the less cynical voice in me is suggesting Tero really should be given an award for that drive, because it was absolutely fantastic from him, and Ferdinand Lechner especially, another great race for him as well.
Yes, and I hope for his sake it wasn't a connection problem that put him out the race, as opposed to a mistake on his part, as we see a huge cloud of smoke erupting from Ferdinand Lechner's car as he takes a third win out of 3 here in the Race Department Grand Prix Championship.
Brilliant stuff. It's fantastic stuff from him, and I think we can't really say much more, because we've been saying this all season, but he's been going really strongly. He's been driving really strongly. He's been doing fantastically. There's just not, we can run out of superlatives, really, because there's just not much more we can say about him. He's just been driving fantastically, well within his ability, and he's on course at this early stage to take the championship. But, come to Brasilia next time around, Matt Legale will come out there stronger than ever. Matt Legale will come out there stronger than ever before, and we're going to have some more challenges out there as well, so you just got to wait and see. But it's fantastic. It's some fantastic racing is ever here at Race Department, and if you do want to get involved, please do come and join us, because it's a fantastic community here at racedepartment.com. Some great racing, you've got some great forums and stuff like that, and it's all very fair and balanced, unlike some other outfits at times.
Yes, and with that, just the 2 rounds to go now in this championship before we bring it to a close at Alton Park in mid-January, I believe. Just double checking that. Yes, end of January. January the 27th is the date for your calendar for the finale for the next round. That we'll have to wait until 2018 for that. January the 13th for the fourth round of this series at Brasilia. But until then, from me and Dan and from Dave in the cameras, it's goodbye.